welcome to Munro Live Podcast. I'm here with Jason Cammisa, and he is going to be my new target for excellence. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah. But right now, Jason, why don't you give us a little bit of background? I'm kind of curious. I know you're a journalist. How did you get involved with journalistic endeavors in cars at the same time? I'm interested in that.
I joke that it's all who you sleep with, but actually it really is. No, I'm kidding. It's luck. I mean, I started out my career as I ran an IT company, and upon leaving that industry screaming, I just happened to meet someone who was working in the industry and running the website for Automobile magazine. And he called and said, "Hey, our sister magazine is Motor Trend. Would you please work with me together?" Because he knew I had an IT background and a car background. And then things shuffled around, and I wound up getting his job when he left, running Automobile's website. And from there, that was basically me sneaking in the door, right? I didn't want to run a website. I wanted to write about cars, and I wanted to drive sideways and do terrible things to other people's cars. And here I am 17 years later, still playing with cars, still sliding other people's cars around, and now talking to you.
Yeah. Wow. The high point. Yeah, righto. Anyhow,
I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you. I'll be embarrassing you shortly, but here's the thing I'm really interested in is you said you fooled around with cars. Like, did you race cars? Did you just terrorize the neighborhood? How did you get interested in cars?
I think I popped out from the uterus wanting to be behind the wheel of a car. Apparently, I drove everyone crazy by the age of 2, calling out every car on the road. And there was some sort of miswiring here in my brain that just made me obsessed with cars.
That's perfect wiring, actually. But
I would agree. And at 14, I bought my first car, which of course I had no license and no right to do so, but I bought an old Volkswagen Beetle with a friend, and we got busted driving it around the neighborhood. So it just kind of started in all of the normal bad teenager ways, but also an obsession with reading car magazines. I was fascinated by it. And my undergrad was originally mechanical engineering. I had a little bit of a laugh when I heard Jason Fensky on this podcast, because he sort of came to the same conclusion that there wasn't a lot of practical real world knowledge, and he thought differential equations was the end. I made differential equations the end. I said, no more, that's it, I can't do this. Switched my major to a whole bunch of other liberal arts crap. And then ultimately wound up
hence the chicks. I knew it. I knew it wasn't just as happens.
No. No, I mean, I ultimately have a master's in law, which has nothing to do with anything, but makes me a really great at arguing. But I'm Italian, so that comes naturally anyway. But really just played around with cars my entire life. And then was lucky enough to be poor enough that I couldn't afford anything unless I would fix it myself. So I, wound up with a $1,500 Volkswagen Scirocco that I still have, and taught myself how to be a mechanic because it taught me that I needed to be one. And then everything else started. I race. I do I have 11 cars at the moment, which is a problem. And I race in lemons, I autocross, you name it. If it's being bad in a car, I do it.
Well, that's pretty good. I have some kind of a similar experience, but I'm really more interested in hearing from you than I am. I've already heard my stories, but I got to tell you before we do anything else. It's an admission. I don't get a chance to even watch the Munro live stuff. So when Eric said, "Hey, you gotta have a look at this guy, have a look at his exercise or whatever, his show on the Cybertruck," I had meetings I didn't go to. Usually I last about 10 or 15 minutes. I was blown away. I mean. With Munro, it's one and done. I mean, it's one take. There's no background. What do we need that for? I mean, we don't do anything that comes even close to what you crank. How many
I've
months
already-
did it take you? How many months in advance did you get? I mean, everything seems to be perfectly scripted. Where'd you get those damn cars? I mean, it's like unbelievable. Everything I saw, I couldn't pull myself away. And actually, I still have it up. And it's like on my bookmark thing. And I now have favorite things that I go and look at, like the Ferrari truck or whatever. Where I never even heard of that. I thought I was in the know, but obviously not.
Well, listen, I would say you guys have access to a wealth of information about automotive products where you have no competition. You don't need to put the money into production value or being different because you guys have the cars that you tear down and you impart this information. YouTube is really great at allowing people to, it's all information, right? You're just transferring information. And what you guys do doesn't really need that. When you're reviewing a car, from my perspective, is I can do what sort of others do, and absolutely no shade towards Marquez or Jack Ricks, who are the other two that got access to the Cybertruck. But I could sit here and tell you about something, but I don't think that's taking full advantage of the medium. I'd rather show you. So I have a business partner named Anthony Esposito, who's my right-hand man, and we are best friends, fight like brothers, and kill each other. And Ant is just as much of a car guy as I am. And he and I sit and come up with ways to show things. And it's always perspective, which means I found that Lamborghini LM002 and the DeLorean and the Rivian R1T and all that other stuff. Because it's one thing in a print magazine to be able to refer to a car. This looks like a Lamborghini LM002, but I want to show you the car and I want you to hear it and I want you to experience it. And I want you to watch the body roll when I'm drifting it around a corner to the owner's absolute horror. And so we do spend a lot of time on the production value because I want that to be taking full advantage of the YouTube's medium. This was our worst produced icons ever.
You me?
What? No,
worse?
I think I
thought you should get some kind of Academy Award. I mean, I was totally blown away. I've never been trained for any of this crap. I do my absolute best to keep from swearing. I've always got people looking at me. Oh my God! And I only got time for one deal. Everything you see is one shot. That's it. And
good. I mean, you have a business to run, and you have other things to do, right? And
but
so it is my business to do that.
From an art standpoint, you kill it. I mean it sincerely. And
that is my team. More than me.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I've got to phone my cousin. He used to be a producer director for Universal Studio. And I'm going to send him one of your things, and I'm going to say, okay, how much would this cost if you did it?
Okay, I want to see the Munro Teardown. That's what I want to see, is you tear down one of my episodes and decide and call me and tell me what you think we spent on it.
I'm not an expert. I can't do that.
No, but
maybe
he can do it.
Could. Maybe he
exactly.
could. Yeah.
Well, typically, people are off by a factor of about 10. They think it costs about 10 times more than we actually spend.
Really?
Because, what it is we're scrappy. We're cheap, right? I always joke that no one does ghetto like we do ghetto.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, you have no idea.
You ain't been here, brother.
Okay. Well, let's do it. Check out some of the other
got the expensive out here to video us, but I'll tell you what, it's always an iPhone. That's it. Two people with an iPhone, and then done. Yeah.
Listen, you gotta do what you gotta do, and we don't have a big budget. YouTube does not function in a large production capacity. It just doesn't. You can't pay for that. I'm lucky in that I'm an employee, so I'm not looking at an ROI in terms of production costs. I'm looking at how can I get Hagerty's name out there and just have people smile when they hear it because they saw a video. But yeah, look at some of the other. So typically we have 4 to 6 weeks of pre-production for an Icons episode where I'm thinking about it, writing a script, going out and driving the car, driving some of the competitor cars if I haven't, and then organizing the 10 or 12 cars that wind up in the episode. Then we film for 4.5 or 5 days. And then poor Rob, who's my editor, spends 4 to 6 weeks editing it and making me look not like an which takes a lot of work. And then, but this time we had 2 weeks of pre-pro, 2 days of filming, and 8 days of post-production and editing, including Thanksgiving.
You got all that stuff done in it. That's a really short period of time.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
I would have thought you'd have been there for a month.
Yeah, no, Tesla was amazing in they gave me 1 day of access to the engineering team, and it was sort of like ask any questions. Everything's sort of on the record. Nothing's off limits. We saw that crash test. And then I went away, wrote the script in a week, and then organized all the other cars. And then we spent 2 days at Sonoma Raceway, one static where the car didn't move. That was all the stand-ups. And then one driving it around where where I raced Randy around the go-kart track like an idiot. And,
yeah, I was figuring he was going to straight up your
I genuinely thought, I was really nervous that we were going to hurt Randy. And Randy's a national treasure. And he's a wonderful person. And I really don't want to kill Randy Popst. And I was worried that I was going to come around the track having just see a headless body in the go-kart and go, oh, I killed Randy. I decapitated Randy Popst with the back bumper. Didn't even feel
pizza.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that wouldn't have been good. So I got to ask, so this is remarkable. The amount of time that you spent and what you cranked is just stunning to me anyways. But what were your initial thoughts? I mean, a lot of people took an initial look at the Cybertruck and said, that's going nowhere. And others, like me, said, oh, man, I got to have that. Where were you on that scale?
I thought it was a joke. I genuinely thought it was a joke.
Really?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part of this video is that I'm getting a lot of pushback for how positive it was. And I keep hearing from people like, oh, this was clearly a paid advertorial by Tesla. It is 100% wasn't. This was a regular piece of editorial. But this is the lesson for me is that we all go in, we see a shape, we see a car, we know a car company, we know the leaders of the car company and everyone involved, and we make our judgments beforehand. But as a journalist, it doesn't matter what my personal opinions are. And it really doesn't matter what my preconceived notions are about the car or the people involved or anything else. I have to go in objectively. And I showed up at Tesla. They reached out and were amazing I'm so thankful for the opportunity, but they were like, listen, we want you to help tell us this engineering story. And I thought, well, you. No one tells me what story to tell, right? Sorry, I probably shouldn't.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he said
think of the children.
My mouth didn't move when I said, but they, I thought I'm not going to tell your story. I'm going to review a car. That's my job. My job is a bid actor, and I'm going to put myself in the mindset of the person who wants this product, and I'm going to evaluate it. Oh God, sorry about the Apple weird things. I'm going to evaluate it based on what the consumer expects this thing to do. That's it. Walk in the lab. And I see the truck and I'm like, oh my God, this thing looks exactly like it did on stage, which is outrageous, whether you like it or not personally my kind of thing. And then I spent the day having my mind blown over and over and over at the ingenuity behind this. So we put the line in the video that I recorded afterwards. We had to go back and redo a segment because I'm like, you guys have all made up your mind about whether you like or hate that Cybertruck. But the craziest thing to me was that it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what it stands for. Yeah. That's not my job. My job was to tell you what's underneath it. And I just was in disbelief, absolute disbelief. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, when we got the first Model 3, I said, I've never seen a pile of ever come into the marketplace like this. And then I went through and I said it had gaps that you could see from here to the moon, or it was built like a 1980s Kia.
Daihatsu, yeah.
It was just until I got a chance to drive it. Like that was my first impressions. Then I got a chance to drive it. Then we yanked off the body. Holy mackerel. All of a sudden, everything changed. And that's where Tesla's got it all, or had it all. Mm-hmm. It was always under the skin. You can't see anything. It looks like a jelly bean. It's just another car. But when you pull the top off, when you pull the body off, and you start looking at all of the other stuff that they've done, that's when it became brilliant. And the Tesla guys hate it. The Tesla fans I mean, I had a 40 cal under my desk. So I'm
Oh
not
no.
you there. Oh man, some of the stuff, we called the FBI. We have secret status here. I have to report it. So anyways, but that aside, when you look at the when you look at the Cybertruck, I mean, for me, I work on fighter planes and stuff like that. For me, I took one look and I said, "That's the future. That's the future. I don't care a shit about anything else. If it's just as good as a Model 3 or a Model Y, it'll be fabulous." And that's where I thought it was going to be. And
Same.
then, holy crap, everything. So your first impressions were you thought it was a joke, and what did you think of the styling?
I loved that it was so outrageous and so future. I loved that it sort of harks back to the 70s and 80s Giugiaro hard edge wedge shape.
Yeah.
Everything from the DeLorean, including obviously the texture of the stainless. But I thought, I was like, this is a hell of a styling statement. I don't particularly love the way. I mean, again, my personal, like, what Jason thinks versus what Jason Cammisa thinks are two different things. I didn't love it. I thought, okay, looks great. It's going to look ridiculous on the road, which will make me laugh because I love the absurd. But then when I saw the number of deposits coming in, I thought, okay, and this is where it's important that I switch to my job. If 1 million people plunk down a deposit on something, it doesn't matter that I don't like it, that it's not my taste. What matters is there's a market for this. People really felt passionately about it. It got everyone's attention, and therefore I give it credibility right off the bat. But I don't, the camera crew was laughing. They said it looks like a void moving through space. It was, the quote from Anthony is, "This is by far the ugliest vehicle we've ever filmed." It doesn't work on camera. It really doesn't, because it doesn't have a face. And so, we as humans, we anthropomorphize everything, and we're looking for eyes, and we're looking for symmetry, and we're looking for all this stuff. And this just violates all those rules. But sitting still, the thing looks incredible. Like it just, I'm not going to say beautiful, but incredible. Like it just has a presence unlike anything else. And I respect that. They came up with the design, and here it is, virtually identical to the concept.
Well, most people don't know that cars are classified. It's got a happy face, it's got a sad face, it's got an angry face, and people, I mean, especially in Korea, they go for the different gods and whatnot that they had in there a million years ago, and they try and morph that into the front end of the car.
Right.
This one, I mean, it's just a flat piece of sheet metal.
No face.
But the side view, to me, is, I mean, that's what I first saw. I walked into it was on TV, and I walked in, I took one look, and I all I saw was the side view. I loved it. So let me ask you a question. You've said some of this stuff, but if you had to categorize what you didn't like about it, what would that be? I mean, is it the face, or what is it?
No, I think from an objective standpoint, I mean, again, it's like what I like, what I don't like. What I don't like for the consumer is the visibility. I just think that this shape has a bunch of compromises built in that traditional pickup trucks don't. There's pluses and minuses, but I think the traditional automotive driver would prefer a bigger greenhouse and better visibility, certainly towards the back.
There's none. There's nothing in the back.
There's nothing.
Zero.
And I like that the nose is actually quite a bit lower than most traditional pickup trucks. But you genuinely, I think you said this, somebody said this also. I thought I was going to hit everything. You can't judge where the front of the truck ends. And that's just, look, people wear high heels, and they're not going and doing marathons in them. This is a styling statement. It exists for a reason, and there will always be compromises in anything that's high style, from everything from sports cars to high heels. So I didn't particularly care for that. I'm not sure that the traditional pickup truck buyer will take advantage of a lot of this truck's benefits versus a regular pickup. So if I sort of think of R1T as the sort of best in class most modern traditional pickup truck design. And Cybertruck are the things that make Cybertruck better. The steer-by-wire, some of the efficiency, obviously the speed. Is that enough to compensate for its visibility drawbacks, its insurability? Obviously, we don't know yet what it's going to cost to insure because we don't know what it's going to cost to fix. But, I like the idea of this exoskeleton, and sure, great. I think it's wonderful that they're thinking differently, but I worry a little bit about, keeping it looking fingerprint free and scratch free. And I just don't know if that trade-off is worth it to the customer. I'm not the customer, but TBD.
Well, personally, I don't really look at it as a competitor to Rivian, because Rivian is made for an entirely different person. True. And I think if you're going to look at a pickup truck, I have a Lightning right outside. I wouldn't dream of, I would never give that thing away, never. It it saved our a couple of times already with the ability to power the factory and whatnot. I love it. And from a pickup truck standpoint, a real pickup truck, that's what I want. But I have one on order. I want a Cybertruck. I want it. And after driving it, I loved it. I couldn't believe it. The only thing I did have a problem with, I didn't care about the back, because as soon as they said, hey, if you want to look out the rearview mirror, look at it's got a camera. I've been trying to get Nishta to get rid of the damn rearview mirrors already. I want to see here. I don't want to look up and, it's foggy, or my wife was putting her eye makeup on or something. I hate that. I want to just see what's going on, and I love that. Now, you said you don't know where the wheels are in the front, and I don't either. So I said, you know what? You take this truck and you bring it into a parking garage that's got one of those spiral things on it. Man, if you don't pee your pants, you're a real man. I really, really was nervous going up that thing. I went like 3 miles an hour. And I said, it'd be great if you could put something down here. Oh, no problem. We just... And they're good. They can do it because everything's software. They got all the cameras already. So now you go into a cramped condition like that, and now I can see my corners and I'll feel a whole lot better. And
the other thing is, look, you get used to everything, right? Every car has visibility issues these days. I did really genuinely, that go-kart scene that we did with Randy we did it multiple different times from multiple different angles to capture the video, but we did do 4.5 minutes of flat out as fast as I could drive that Cybertruck around that go-kart track. And I don't know if the video did a really good enough job of sort of broadcasting the fact that I don't think I would have been able to do that in any other truck, because I wouldn't have been able to turn the wheel.
I mean, you'd never be able to turn the wheel. And what's his name was saying, he's not holding to the track. I'm surprised that hasn't flipped over. I mean,
we did get it on 3 wheels, but really? Well, the problem was, of course, I'm badly behaved, and I asked to turn off stability control, and the only way to do that was to put it in Baja mode, which raised the suspension to the absolute max, and it was porpoising, and it was on 2 or 3 wheels at one point, but we didn't put that in the segment because I didn't think that was fair. But the reality is, I genuinely went for it. I race. I'm pretty quick. And that was everything that truck had. And not only do I not think other trucks would be able to have been able to do that at that speed, I don't think any other truck's brakes would have put up with that. But also I did get really used to the steering immediately, and it became second nature, where I was just too busy trying to look for where Randy was. And then the car shrank around me. So the visibility and where the front wheel stuff are, you get used to that. It's just jarring at first. It's just a barrier.
I personally, it didn't take me long to figure out the steering, but the problem was there were so many things that I was excited about. I must have missed the off-ramps that we were supposed to go to. So I got a lot more driving in than I thought, simply because we were only supposed to drive 2 blocks and then, get to an off-ramp. And I'm busy talking and, look at this. Oh, look at that. And the next thing you know, gone. And now we got to go 50 miles to turn around and whatnot.
Good. So I have a question for you, though, Sandy. Yeah. So you have a Lightning. I had a Lightning there for that production because I think it's a great traditional pickup truck. That
absolutely. I think it's the best real, traditional pickup truck. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that too. And then you also want a Cybertruck.
Yes, because I like to go hunting, and that's the wrong. I don't want a Lightning to go hunting. I want that truck to go, because you know what? If I take the Lightning into into the woods, what am I going to wind up with? A scratched mess. And then I got to deal with the guys here. What the hell did you do to that truck? And I got to deal, and worse yet, my wife. Nick, you can't take care of anything. That's why we can't have nice things. So at the end of the day, with stainless steel, I will run over trees. I won't care. I will go through a couple of pine trees. I won't care, because you know what? Anything I do to that truck will do really zero. And I mean that sincerely, zero to that truck. And I will take my buffing wheel outside, and guess what? It's gone. In fact, that'll be the shiniest part on the whole damn car. And I had Rubicon after Rubicon after Rubicon. They were all beat up, every one of them. I'll never beat that. I'll never have to beat that car up. And I never washed it. With the Rubicon, I never saw it. I mean, it would be frightened if I took it into a car wash. So
that's an interesting viewpoint, because my question was, is this a supplement to, or is this a replacement for a traditional simple, tough, but genuinely built like a 1950s car pickup truck? Or is it a Lamborghini for people, which is obviously why I brought that Lamborghini to that show? Is it something of a styling statement? And you're saying it's different. It's actually, It's got a different set of capabilities. I'm a little bit concerned about what happens when you scratch it. I mean, we did try our hardest and we didn't scratch it, but something will.
It's okay. So here's something I've been told: Sandy, shut up and let the other guy talk. So, but here's one thing you need to know: that thing, they start out with martensitic material, so that's stainless steel, and that means it's non-magnetic and things like that. But I have a lot of rifles. And you know what? If I take one of my rifles and I shoot at a piece of 1.8 millimeters thick steel, stainless steel, boom, it goes right through it like a hot knife in butter. That didn't. So I was thinking to myself, these guys are lying. And I'm not a fan of that. So I couldn't understand how it was that they could make that happen. Then they took me into the factory. I went on a factory tour, and they have a straightening area, and they take the austenitic steel and they work harden it, and they turn it into martensite. Mm-hmm. I can't shoot through martensite. Mm-hmm. And that's when I saw what they were doing, and when I said, what happens when you work harden it? Well, it gets harder. They didn't tell me until later it's martensite. And if you know something about, if you'd have gone to school for it, just a little, but anyways, you should have taken.
I don't know anything about
taken the what do you call it course, the metallurgy course. Anyhow, there's nothing like it. That's why when you see that bullet hit it in slow motion, it blows up completely. That's supposed to happen on the other side of the plate. It's not supposed to blow up on the front of the plate. Right, so anyways, that to me was a big deal, and that means I can't scratch it. There's no a diamond. If some chick is writing her name on with her engagement ring, okay, I can't get that out. But a pine needle, that don't work. And not even a rock. There isn't any rocks that are harder than stainless steel. So, yeah.
Cool. We wanted to destroy it. I mean, we hit it repeatedly with a sledgehammer. Didn't work.
Yeah.
It just didn't touch it.
I saw you. So you hit that refrigerator. Oh my God! Oh, that was brutal. But anyways, I thought you were going to kill. I keep forgetting his name. The driver, Randy. I thought you were going to kill Randy. Hey, hit it again, again. He's an old guy, and he's kind of like skinny. I mean, he shouldn't have been
strong.
beating that.
He was
thing.
okay.
Yeah?
I was sore after that whole filming. He wasn't. He was fine. He was. Everyone was whacking on that thing, and it did. In the interest of perfect clarity, we hit the Cybertruck probably 10 times, 10 times with a sledgehammer, and one time when Randy hit it, he hit it with just the leading corner of the hammer. And it was as hard as he could. Every hit was as hard as he could. And that did leave a scuff. And we thought, uh-oh. So we sort of just I just used my sleeve and pushed it out of the way. The scuff went away. And
Yeah.
if you looked at a very, very shallow angle into light, you could see a little tiny ripple is a strong word. It'd be this.
Yeah.
It'd be the way a traditional panel would look after your paintless dent removal guy is done, right? If you're looking for it, you can almost see where it was. You can see where it was, but I mean, that hit would have ripped through. That skeleton's the exoskeleton or whatever they call it. The body panels are nuts.
Well,
Nuts.
here's something that probably will happen. If you take that same truck and you let it sit in the sun for a little while, it'll go away. Martensite doesn't like to be bent. It wants to be where it was at the beginning. So another good thing. Yeah, I could talk about this all day long, but I got a whole bunch of questions to ask you. So you mentioned on Top Gear that when you were interviewed that you had 2 different Cybertrucks experiences from 2 different Cybertrucks. What was that all about?
So the first one was at Fremont. Tesla brought me out to their engineering lab, and they have a test track that's behind the factory in Fremont. They had set up a cone course that I could do in the Cybertruck as well as an F-150 Lightning. And it was there to just demonstrate steer-by-wire. And then I did a couple laps of their oval test track just to see. Of course, they were thinking I was going to be doing like steering inputs, but I was also doing limit handling because I wanted to know what it did. That steering was, first of all, to say the same thing you did, the whole thing was overwhelming, right? I mean, I do this for a living, and I sit and talk to engineers for 12 hours and can remember all of that. That's all great. But getting in that truck for the very first time and trying to get around cones and backing out of a spot, it was disorienting because the steering, was 170 degrees and in each way. I felt the steering was too gainy. I think at very low speeds, I wound up just having to learn where the front wheels were going to be. The second truck I drove was for the ones we filmed with, and that was very different. There are 2 factors. Number one is I got used to it, right? I had more experience with the truck because that first one was the literal first time I'd ever sat behind the wheel of a Cybertruck, because it was when I was doing the concourse. And 2, they said they had toned it down. They slowed the ratio at very, very low speeds considerably. And that helped. But at the end of the day, it's all software tuning. So they really can and should do a slider of how aggressive do you want your steering to be. I mean, they're never going to be able to change the 340-degree total rotation, but they can change the shape of the curve. And I think they should. But yeah, that was the only difference between the 2 trucks was one had been updated in the 2 weeks in between Fremont and Sonoma Raceway.
Well, that's one of the nice things about being able to tune with software. Somebody says, hey, I don't like, or even the pictures. Like I said, hey, it'd be great if I could see what the hell the corners were. And they said, oh, no problem. And they probably got it on the trucks already. So I think that they're very responsive to what the customer has to say. And that's how they make things happen. So you mentioned the yoke and the steering and what did you think of the yoke? Are you a yoke kind of guy? The yoke on you?
On the Model S and Model X, absolutely not. I think that was a huge misstep. I think that showed a fundamental misunderstanding of how steering works. If you have a steering system that's 2 or 3 turns lock to lock, you cannot use a yoke. And I would go so far as to say it was dangerous in the Model S Plaid. I spun the car immediately on track, and I would have absolutely. It's my job to drive cars beyond the limit and slide them around and not wreck them. And this was a privately owned car that we had rented. I just spun it because there was no steering wheel where I went to go reach for the steering wheel. Steer by wire fixes that because you're not turning the wheel 2 or 3 times. Right. I don't mind the shape of it. I didn't mind the feeling of it. I certainly don't want steer by wire in a sports car or anything where, feedback is really important to me or enjoying the drive. But I think the yoke shape now with the sort of horizontal connector on top from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock is fine. Stylistic choice. It works. It works.
Well, I personally like the yoke a lot. I liked it even more inside the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
But I do know that other people hated it. So everybody to their own. For
Yep.
me, when you're really hauling, and we did that. I didn't know how much of a sense of humor the cops in Austin had, but their cops are much bigger than I am. So I didn't want to really, get out of the car.
I did move around a lot, and I will say that the whole steer-by-wire system from yoke to the actual actuators on the truck worked perfectly,
Yeah.
and it worked together well as a system, and
Yeah.
so I had no issue with it at all on this truck. I mean, once it's steer-by-wire.
Well, I really did like it. We've talked about the style. Let me just jump back. What do you think how do you think it's going to be reacted to in 10 years?
I think every time you get something that an innovator makes that captures the mind and the attention of the whole world, every also ran car company will jump in and emulate it. The best example that we can give is that terrible bustle butt on the E65 BMW 7 Series back in the day. It was a terrible design. The car was absolutely hideous. And what did every single car company do? BMW is doing this, so we have to do it too.
Yeah.
And they ruined all their cars. So in the case of the Cybertruck, I think it works at getting a lot of attention. And I think we're going to see this car inspire a whole lot of copycat designs.
Yeah, I want to be different like everybody else.
Exactly.
That's what I used to say when I was a cruel guy at Ford Motor Company. Oh, that's great. Let's be different like everybody else.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point.
So, all right. So, there's a question here. Is the Cybertruck? Do you think it's going to become a working man's truck?
I love that I don't know the answer to this question. Like
don't give your best guess. Come on, you're a journalist. You got to have some kind of an opinion.
This is the crazy part of this truck. I typically do know whether I'm pretty good at predicting car success based on what I think the customer's expectations are. On the surface of it, the answer is absolutely not. It's a showpiece, and people want it because of what it looks like and whatever. But there's so much substance behind that.
Yeah.
And there are so many small benefits to the traditional pickup truck buyer that I think, or to the workman, that I wouldn't be surprised if they start rolling out into job sites. I also wouldn't be surprised if people are embarrassed to do so because it sends a message. And this is a problem with just, the car is an avatar. The car is it's a Halloween costume that we put on and we drive out into the world. And it says something about who we are and what we find important. And I worry that if I were a contractor and I pulled up in a job site and, people would say, oh, that's $100,000 truck. And that's Elon Musk. And that's it's just associated with all of these things. Meanwhile, a Lightning is $100,000 and no one looks twice at it. So that's going to be a factor. I don't know. And I love that I don't know. I can't wait to find out.
Well, here's what I think. I think that the F-150 Lightning will lose out on about 37 sales. I don't think I did that kind of shit, and you want to have just something normal when you drive up to somebody's house and say, yeah, we can do that siding, or yeah, we can put your roof on. If you come in a Cadillac, if you're driving up in a Cadillac or something that everybody knows is really expensive, then all of a sudden the whole atmosphere changes, and I don't think I can afford you. Don't even bother writing that code out.
Exactly.
So I believe that, but I wouldn't. I'm not buying it for that. I'm buying it for, hey, you know what? I can get the quads in there. Hey, you know what? The bikes fit easy in that. I can sleep in this, so I can drive out to somewhere in the bush and stay warm. And in the morning, instead of trooping for, who knows, a mile and a half or something like that to get to a quiet spot or a blind where I freeze my ass off, I suspect I'm going to have a microwave in mine and a coffee maker, maybe espresso. Right. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to have in there, but I can guarantee you, I'm older now. I'm old, period. The can go away. But I'm telling you, I really don't. I want to go hunting, but I don't want to go roughing. So
Right.
for me, I think that there's going to be a certain type of individual, somebody who's into sports, somebody like I got a friend. His name is Flynn, Nick Flynn, and he kind of like thinks of a lot of himself, and he'll definitely he won't use it. He's got pickup trucks and stuff like that. He would never dream it. He'll buy one, and then he'll drive it, and it'll be his fashion statement when he goes hunting. And
Right.
by the way, I don't know where that picture came from with a guy that had the Cybertruck and he couldn't get it up the hill. I don't know what that was all about, but maybe he should have taken an off-road driving course. I mean, that's not
might
the
have
way you
helped.
usually do it. But anyways, I think this is going to be just as so the Rivian, as far as I'm concerned, is the best off-road vehicle I've ever had. I didn't get a chance to drive the Cybertruck off-road, but my guess is that it's going to be pretty damn good, if not better, than the Rivian.
It's got the ingredients for it.
It does.
I mean,
Yeah. I don't know.
we were going to do an off-road segment in the video that we did, but we just ran out of time and weather.
Yeah.
The thought was, if I got it stuck off-road, somewhere, how the hell are we going to extract it? And
Yeah.
if we only have 7 hours of daylight that we can really shoot in, and it takes 3 hours to extract this thing if it gets stuck, or the camera car, or anyone else gets stuck, it's just not, it wasn't worth it. But I can't. I mean, with 3 motors, an individual, and a locker on the diff up front, I just don't see, and that much suspension travel, I just don't see how it wouldn't be great off road. But I'm not an off roader.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be brilliant. And then as soon as I get mine, so we have a test at my house. So I live in a county, and I have the house that I live in is on kind of like a little hill. And on the north side of the house is the septic system. Mm-hmm. And you can drive off the little road that I live on, and you can drive over the septic system, and then you can go up a 60-degree hill.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
So I could do that with my Rubicon, my 2013 Rubicon. I did it all the time. My wife hated it. You're going to tear up the grass. But I did it, and it didn't tear up the grass. So anyway, I bought my brand new Jeep. And these are the guys that are really going to they're going to get their handed back to them. And I brought that thing up, and I went up the hill, and I got about halfway up, and I could feel the tires braking, and I'm going, this is going to chew the grass up like there's no tomorrow. I put it into reverse. I let it drive itself down, and I turned around, and now I'm going up the driveway, and I saw my wife up at the top of the hill. I drive up the driveway, and I'm looking, and there she is.
With a gun.
No,
Okay.
no, thank God. No, I don't give her no guns. So anyway, she's standing there going like this, and I drove it around the corner to park it, and I drive around her, and I rolled down the window because I figured she got some kind of comment, and here it was, sell it. We had it for less than a month. Then I got the Rivian. Holy doodle. I went up that hill. I went sideways on it. I mean, I couldn't believe the difference. And then we took it to an off-roading area up this concrete mountain that they've got where all of the Jeeps are trying to crawl up. And I went
Right up.
I stopped right in the middle. Stopped.
Yeah, just to wave at everyone.
No, I let the other guy get ahead of me. And then I went, yeek.
Yep.
I gunned it and went up. Oh, my God. Pissed him right off. So let me ask you a question. Besides the Cybertruck, what have you reviewed lately that's really turned your crank?
I mean, I was just on a small launch for the Porsche 911 ST. And so this is another incredibly low volume, incredibly expensive parts bin special, basically from Porsche, where they took the GT3 RS as engine, which is a 4-liter flat six with naturally aspirated with 6 throttle bodies and revs to 9 grand. And they pulled 22 pounds out of the clutch and flywheel assembly. It's manual only. I'm not kidding. Um, and it is
Good.
just, it's deafeningly loud in the car in all of the right ways. It is just the most spectacular sports car on the market by, it relegates Ferraris to video game status, which I hate to say.
Wow.
So that, I get excited about this naturally aspirated, high revving manual transmission Porsche 911 thing. And then I get just as mind blown by Lucid Air Sapphire's dynamics. And so those are the two standouts, I would say, of the last couple months, which is that Sapphire is probably the best handling car I've ever driven, period. And that includes everything from Paganis to McLarens to Lotuses and everything else. They just have the software that's controlling the torque vectoring is so perfectly dialed in that the car becomes and just a complete extension of a driver. And so an advanced driver can get that thing to break the laws of physics using torque vectoring and having 3 motors on it. It's just unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And at the same time that you have, it's a good time if you have a lot of money to be able to experience a street car that pulled off a 1.89 second 0 to 60 with a passenger in it at a stop sign that I definitely didn't do. And at the same time, 100
wasn't in
decibels.
Austin, was it?
No, It was right outside Sonoma Raceway. I mean, in Mexico. Yeah, no, I mean, I was at a stop sign and I had Jason Fensky in the car, funny enough, in the car with me, and we had 65% battery and the air conditioning was on, and I had a V-Box in the car, and I said, oh, fuck it, let's just see what it does. And just launched, and it was 1.89 seconds to 60. Like it was nothing. And I'm like, what world are we in when I'm in a near 6,000 pound luxury sedan that just out accelerated someone being dropped out of a plane in comfort with the air conditioning on and the cooled seats, and then a couple weeks later, I'm driving a 911 that's literally 95 decibels while you're driving down the road. A screaming flat 6, and happily, by the way, I would happily go deaf listening to that. So those are the two, that really made a mark in the last 2 months.
In the last few months.
There's otherwise.
So what is your all-time favorite vehicle then?
Oh, that's a
You've done it all, so I'm.
Wow. I'm gonna say, even though I hate to say this, I don't own any Porsches, but I feel like probably the best sports car I've ever driven is a 997, so 911 GT3 RS 4-liter from, I think it was an 07. Aston Martin V12 Vantage 7-speed manual, V12 Vantage S 7-speed manual was up there, but I can't. I'm going to shut up. Let me retract all of that and say the best car I've ever driven, a Volkswagen Golf, a GTI. Really? Because it does more things better than more. I mean, how do you define best, right? A Bugatti Chiron is unbelievable in terms of art and engineering and technical prowess and all that other stuff. A Model 3 is the best, or Model Y is the best transportation device ever made. It's not the most fun. My Volkswagen Scirocco is the car that makes me smile the most. Is that the best car? I don't know how to define best.
Well, you mentioned the one that I think is the best. I think the best car on the market is the Model Y. I mean, it's the right price and it does everything. Yeah. It gives you that rocket ship experience, and it doesn't cost anything, hardly for gas and oil. And well, there's no oil. There's no oil. Well,
no gas. I mean, my sister, who's not a car person per se, had a stick shift Mazda 6, which I thought was super cool. Black and black interior, and she was the sort of cool mom in school because she had a stick. And she just drove a Model Y that a friend had gotten just as an experiment. And goodbye Mazda 6. Goodbye. She had a beater old Lexus RX that she used to carry shit around. And she's like, this car does everything better than everything else, period. And it's supercar fast and gets 200 billion effective miles per gallon. It's rating 120 mpge and it costs nothing to run. And it's the safest car ever tested. And how do you argue with that?
Yeah, pretty much. So the big thing on driving economy, I did love my Rubicon. There was no question about it. My 2013 was, I mean, nobody figured I'd ever sell it, but I did. And one of the things that I didn't like about it was, okay, the bill. You go up there, pump some gas, and a month I don't drive that much because mostly I'm flying around to different places. $250 a month for gas.
Ooh.
Versus $11 for my.
So, yeah, I mean, I tell people all this time, I live in the future. And I don't mean that to sound like a I drive the newest cars for a living, and the average car on the road is 12 years old. So if I am looking at this, I'm experiencing the absolute current future, and the average person is experiencing 12 years ago, which, by the way, and those cars are all 10 years old also. So they're, these cars are 20 years old in technology or 15 years old in technology on average. And I said years ago, once you interact with an electric vehicle on a daily basis, there just is no going back, period. And everyone thinks I'm crazy. Now, I have a 49-year-old pile of shit Ferrari that gets 9 miles per gallon, and it wants super unleaded, and it pollutes terribly, and it makes great noises, and it puts a smile on my face, and I absolutely love it, and I don't care what it costs to operate. But my daily driver is an electric car because I just need something that just doesn't complain. It doesn't want oil. It doesn't want gas. It doesn't brake. There's no turbo lag. There's no downshifting lag. I get to win all the stoplight drags because no one hears me coming. I mean, it's the best of all worlds. So my daily's an EV, and then there are 10 gas-powered cars that put smiles on my face, but you can't go back once you live with an EV.
What are all those cars? Name them off.
1975 Ferrari 308 GT4, 1980 Rover SD1 3500, 1985 Mercedes 190e 2.316, 1987 Volkswagen Scirocco 16 valve, 1988 Volkswagen Cabriolet with a 2-liter 16 valve swap, 1989 BMW 325i sedan, 1990 BMW 325i wagon, 1991 Honda Beat, 2009 Lotus Elise SC, 2019 Dodge Grand Caravan SXT, and 2019 Volkswagen e-Golf.
You win the prize. Know how many cars I got? None.
But you're smart.
Yeah, I don't have any.
I live in the Bay
borrow
Area.
the ones
Do you know
that
what it
work.
costs me to store these things? Oh, I'm so stupid. But no, I mean, they're my babies. They're my children.
Wow. Not only that, they're most of what I heard, there was a gigantic investment. So anytime you need to cash in the chips.
No, you know what? The joke is that none of my cars cost more than cost even within $10,000 of what the average car the new car cost last year. The most I've ever spent in my life was $41,000, and that was the Ferrari.
How'd you get a Ferrari for $41,000? It had no.
It's the ugly one. No, it's the one that no one wants. And and the Ferrari and Lotus were $40,000 each, 39 and 41. And other than that, the Scirocco was $1,500. The BMW was $1,500. The other BMW was $6,000. The Cabby was $4,200. I am cheap. There, like I said, nobody does ghetto like Jason.
unless you're Sandy, and in that case, you don't have any cars.
Fair enough.
Can I borrow your car? Can I borrow your? And that's it.
Absolutely not. You're going to try to climb a 60% grade in my old Lotus. No.
Well, no, I don't think that would work. But I will tell you, I will cheerfully reach into my back pocket and pay whatever I need to in order to get what I want out of that Cybertruck, and that will be the last truck I'll ever need. I mean, what's going to wear out? Oh, it goes around. That's it. I mean, I don't know if you knew it, but I was an engine engineer. And, when I put down failure modes and effects analysis on an engine, it goes a long ways. You can't believe. And then, it's 43% efficient. Wow. What's that electric car? 97. So, there's a lot of things that I look at. And the best one was this kid that came along and said something about, he said, I don't like those cars. They're too noisy. And I said, well, don't you like that kind of noise? I mean, it's sound of power. And he turned around and looked at me and he said, the Starship Enterprise doesn't make any noise. Oh, yeah, kid,
we don't
shut
know
up.
That because
Get
there's no
that
sound
kid out of here.
Yeah, beat him up. Smack him around a little.
Yeah, exactly.
He hasn't heard that Porsche 911 ST that I was just talking about. My ears were bleeding, and I've never been smiling wider.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. We talked about stuff you reviewed that impressed you lately, but what's something you reviewed lately that disappointed you?
Top billing goes to Mercedes EQS.
Oh.
That's quite the reaction. Do I need to shut up right now?
No, no, I'm not. Sandy's shut up. That's my motto.
I feel like there were. Let me put on my journalist hat on here. I have never seen an example of a car company that has the engineering prowess and experience the size of Mercedes-Benz to fail completely on so many levels in delivering a consumer product that should have been comparable to its previous products. Is that politically correct enough?
Wow, that's pretty good. You could make it as a what do you call those people?
Spokesperson.
A woke person. Yeah.
No, because I'd rather just say I hated it and it's the world's worst pilot.
Now
But,
you're
that's not fair.
Now you're
That's
a
not fair
Musk
to
person. You're either woke or Musk. Yeah, you got to take a choice.
I'm right down the middle. I mean, I get most. There are a lot of people at Mercedes-Benz who spent a lot of time engineering that car. I wish one of them had a clue. See, I can do both. I can do it's just it's
I'm almost on the verge of crying. That was so well said. You're definitely destined for being a writer or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's
kind of funny.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, no. I try. Look, as my job, I have to be fair and unbiased to Mercedes, and they're going to be really pissed at me, I'm sure. But the reality is, I think there are some very serious and very obvious shortcomings from that car, and I expect better from Mercedes. But if this were a Chrysler, which I don't, for example, expect better from, I would still be just as hard on it. I think they tried for glitz over substance, and didn't nail it.
That's glitz is just not at the right level. You got to go a lot higher than glitz for that one.
Here, Sandy. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, you're doing well. Anyway, now that we've kind of like opened Pandora's box here, so 10 years from now, who do you think is going to be the lead car company?
Oof. I 5 years ago would have said VW.
Me too. That was wrong. Yeah,
that was well. What we learned is that Ferdinand Piëch had far more of an influence on that company than we realized, because the man keels over and the company falls apart. I don't understand how that happened so quickly. As you can see, hold on, that's funny. I have books behind me on him. I'm working on a sort of biographical piece on Piëch. I would have said Volkswagen. I think Toyota's positioned in a really smart way for the next 5 years. Not sure about past that. And then I just look at Tesla and think, if they keep innovating and keep dragging the auto industry out of 30 years ago or 50 years ago or 70 years ago, they have to be among the best. The question is, will the sort of politics of the brand, and Elon's not doing a great job at not offending people, right? And it doesn't matter. It's not my job to tell everyone whether to like him or hate him or agree with him or disagree with him. That's all BS. But I worry that there's when he's being as divisive as he is, he can hurt as much as he can help. And I would love to see Tesla doing a better job at just saying, hey, we're here as an agnostic car company, and we just want to make a good product, and we're killing it. So buy our stuff if you like our good products. And I think they have a real chance of being on top of the world. And I think the traditional car companies all are in big trouble. Big trouble.
Well, you didn't mention my number one pick. I believe BYD.
Yeah. I mean, we can't discount the China market, because it's invisible to us, but huge.
Do you get any chance to drive their vehicles and stuff like that?
I have not.
You're in for a real treat. I mean it sincerely. Those guys are just going to kick. And everybody, oh, I got a great idea. Let's go back to the future. What do you mean back to the future? Oh, let's go. We need another big V8. Oh, really? I've seen this before. This looks a lot like the Japanese invasion. Anyhow, right. I really think that once they start once the Chinese start bringing their stuff in, the end will be painful.
I mean, it's happening in Europe, right? I mean,
that's what's killing Volkswagen, Europe. Yeah, there's one of the things. This is not mine. This is one of the other. What's the name of those guys? Car industry analysts. And man alive, you look at this, and there's got to be executives that have seen this.
I'm taking a screenshot of that. I want to look at it later.
I'll send it to you.
Cool.
I'll send it to you. But I'll tell you what, there's a couple of big names missing, like GM and Ford, and I just.
Look, I hate what scares me is the possibility that one day we're going to look back at these podcasts and say, wow, how stupid were we? This whole EV battery electric vehicle thing it didn't work and we should have seen it.
Oh no, it's going to.
But I really don't see another way forward. Whether it's the right move or not, everyone can have their opinions. I just don't see another way forward for this industry.
I don't see it as being, it can't possibly fail. Because quite frankly, when the innovation light turns on in the United States, things happen. So now we're finding out, hey, guess what? Lithium's not a big deal. And hey, guess what? There's enough there's enough minerals and whatnot. We have some of the biggest mines for nickel and whatnot on the planet to go and get. They keep finding stuff. I mean, some clown not a clown, but some guy in Quebec said, hey, you guys are looking for, carbide. Hey, we got a whole mountain of it. It's left over from the Ice Age or something. What?
Huh?
So there's a lot
of
property.
I think there's a lot of, everyone is rightfully upset about the idea of climate change, and we're all panicking and we don't know what to do. And I'm not going to say that EV or a battery electric vehicle is the world's most clean solution. What I'm saying is, given the information that we have right now, that seems to be the right way forward. We are trading one kind of pollution for a different one, but I think we're setting ourselves up to be in a better place. Yeah. And that is a very different, by the way, conversation than me saying once you live with an EV every day, you don't go back, right? Those two things are actually unrelated. I don't, when I say living with an EV is better, I'm not paying any attention to what it costs to mine the lithium or anything else. I'm just saying this product is a better match for what most people need than a traditional product. But at the same time, it certainly does appear that all the mining stuff isn't as big of a deal as we thought. And the right thing to do, or at least to our current information, the best choice is to move away from internal combustion. And of course, you're an engine engineer. I've built engines. I know what goes into those things. Just to assemble parts that somebody else already manufactured is a nightmare. Obviously, I love doing it, but it's a nightmare. And you just kind of look at the whole thing and go, how did this win? How is this even a debate? How many meters per second squared of deceleration is that piston having 30 times a second? What? Versus, there's a little motor that spins. It's just kind of a no-brainer.
Well, you want to be on an assembly line and trying to crank engines out at a 30-second cycle. Yeah. That hey, I dropped a few bolts. Where'd they go? Well, they fell in where those pistons are. Oh well. Somebody's going to be unhappy.
Right.
And I remember seeing that when you get a bunch of new operators and they got a handful of, they're not supposed to do it that way, but they've got a handful of basically push rivets, and they're putting in a little pan over the top of the screen for the oil filter, and you're going to pull that off, right? Oh, they fall out when you turn it. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I only got 30
Yeah.
seconds here. Okay, fine. Well, death by
Yeah, I
30
think we
seconds.
found a better way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's safe to say. Yep.
Yeah, it works really well.
Before we get you out of here, what do you have coming up next, Jason? What's your next big car you're reviewing?
In a couple of weeks, okay, this is actually a perfect segue, so thank you. In a couple weeks or a week or two, you're going to see my Icons episode on the Ford Mustang Dark Horse, which was a lot of fun because it's, Icons is billed as a car review, but really it's a short form documentary. So I got what I decided. The question that I wanted to answer is Dark Horse a meaningless marketing slogan? And how is it that this Mustang is so different than every other Mustang that came before it? So, of course, I gathered every other Mustang, plus a car that was supposed to be called a Mustang, but was front-wheel drive, and then renamed at the last second, plus a couple BMWs, plus a Volkswagen Fox. And I'll leave that to you to figure out what the hell that was doing there. And so when I said before that the Cybertruck is our worst produced Icons ever, have a look at the Dark Horse one, because I think this one is we were in Palm Springs, so it's pretty. But it was a really fun one to do, and I think it's a great story about that car. So that I think should be live, provided my editor doesn't continue to have the flu, December 21st on the Hagerty YouTube channel, and if we can drag his out of bed and force him to work a little bit more, 21st. Otherwise, it'll be 28th.
Wow, this is cool. Have you got any
Thank you,
more,
guys.
Eric?
Nope, that's it. I got nothing. Thank you so
Just
much.
the one,
Thank you
Eric?
so
That's
much.
it. Come on.
This
Thank
was
you, guys.
great. Thank you.
Thanks for what you do. I really appreciate the engineering insight on your channel. I watch a lot of your videos. Really cool stuff. So
Great. Thanks so
for that,
much.
and thanks for having me.
All righty. Great stuff.
Stay in touch.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks.